no matter what problem it is, whether it's the climate or healthcare or the cars we drive or how we power our homes, the solutions are literally all in STEM, the clothes we wear. And we need a lot of smart people to create those solutions and have those conversations. And we need to inspire those young people to go into those fields.
Unstable Vitals is the podcast that takes the pulse of American healthcare, and the prognosis is critical. Doctors Lara and Adam, former ER physicians turned entrepreneurs and business leaders, expose why the system is unraveling before our eyes. But all hope isn't lost. Lara and Adam cut through the noise, spotlighting what's failing, what's actually working, and what it will take to rebuild a system on the verge of collapse. Buckle up. This is the unfiltered, no BS conversation healthcare desperately needs.
All right, good day, everyone. It is Unstable Vitals, and I am so excited to be here today with my good friend Lara, Dr. Zibners. Myself, I'm Dr. Adam Brown, and we are here with Dr. Owais Durrani. But before we talk about Owais, and Owais and I go back for several years in the COVID time, seeing him on television and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to just jump right in. Lara, you have had a really interesting last couple of days. Sorry, we're going to put you on pause, Owais, but because this is important.
This is our obligatory bullshit moment.
You know, you went to see Donny Osmond, and fun fact, I didn't know he was still alive. Sorry.
Yeah.
But tell us more.
Here is my signed CD that I paid good money for.
That's pretty cool.
I've had a Donny Osmond thing since I was like 3 years old. And then when I was 10, I went to see him at Music Circus in Sacramento, and he and all the Osmond brothers slapped my hand, and I wouldn't go swimming for 2 weeks. And then my friend called me and said, you got to come over and go swimming. And I'm like, well, I can because I have Donny Osmond essence on my hand. And she's like, put it on a piece of paper and hold it there, and then lift it off really quick and put tape over it. You'll save the essence. And my mom found that piece of paper not too long ago. So it's like a thing my sister and I do. Like, she had to stop breastfeeding her 18-month-old once when they reunited. So, you know, and then we did 2 Donnies 3 days when he was back in the UK. So I had to go to Vegas for this Maria Shriver Women's Alzheimer Movement event. And I thought, well, while I'm there, I'll go see my friend Donny. So we got there, and my sister and I went, and we had really good seats, and I met him, and he shook my hand. And then, because I'm a startup founder who's insane, I told him all about my company. And my sister was totally horrified because up until that moment, she was convinced he wanted to hang out with us. And then he looked pretty horrified. And then we were ushered out of the room.
Is that because you said the word vagina?
I know. I said, my company, we prevent miscarriage, and I need help. I'm now like accosting all celebrities, regardless of whether you are a 60-something-year-old Mormon man or not.
But you also name dropped someone else in there. You had mentioned Maria Shriver. So
yeah, she also was equally unimpressed to meet me, but I, forced her into the photo op because every little bit counts.
Hey, that's right. I mean, like, I was just impressed seeing that you had gone to these things. Number one, I was impressed, like, wow, Donny Osmond looks pretty damn good to be, I don't know his age, but like. He's
shorter than me though, and he stood on tiptoes so that I would look smaller in the photo, which I really appreciated because,
Was the music good? Could he still sing?
He is. Okay, there's a reason these people are still performing, with 60-year careers. It's because they are unbelievable performers. He's dancing on stage with these children who look about 12 years old, and he can dance better than them. He is so just so talented. They had this segment where the audience picked songs, and the whole band, and he just went right into a snippet of whatever that song was. This man has had how many albums? Like, I am a fan of people who are not flashes in the pan, right? So I've been sticking with this man for 50 years, and I really needed to meet him this time because both of us could die really any day at this point.
So you've been sticking with him since you were gamete stage. Like, you were not even alive.
Right. Thank you very much. That's right. I'm 27 years old again today.
Gotcha. Hey, Owais, what's the coolest concert you've been to?
First of all, I haven't heard the word gamete since probably high school, so thanks for reminding me of that. But,
I think that is pre-embryonic, just like, I think so.
Oh man, Coldplay. So see this album right here? It's signed by all 4 members of the Coldplay band. That's their last album. I saw them in Houston, I think 2 years ago. Best concert ever. It's like, even if you're not a fan, you go there and you just get sucked into like jumping and balls flying around and
Yeah.
confetti, and best time ever. Highly
It's
recommend.
I love Coldplay. As I've mentioned to you, I'm going to go see them in Miami, and I was just, I mean, it's just like you mentioned, the beach balls flying around, the armbands that light up in different colors, and when the song Yellow comes on, it is
Oh
just
yeah.
like so intense. But I have to tell you this really quick story before you jump in. This is true ER doc fashion. We kind of like go down a tangent and we just start talking about something, but this is important. Um, like we get to Philly. I've seen Coldplay I think 5 times, and we get to Philly and they're like, we don't have your tickets. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because these are not like cheap tickets. They were on the ground level, but they were assigned seating on the ground level. And they said, but we've got a better solution. They put us like second row right at the end of the
Wow.
catwalk and where they do a whole bunch of their songs. So I had like this, like Chris Martin could basically spit on me. Like, I mean, as he was singing, it was so intense, so amazing. I've seen them in Amsterdam the day before Brexit occurred. I've seen them in Philly, Chicago, DC. I mean, I absolutely love them. And I love them so much that even Steve was saying to me the other night that he was playing it in the Echo Lab when he was reading cardiology, echocardiography reports and things. And he had Coldplay playing, and a resident said, Dr. Farmer, is that adult contemporary music? I'm like, are you kidding me? Fire that resident, or like, I don't know how you do it, but get them gone. The bad
Isn't
bedside
Chris
manner.
isn't Chris Martin the ex-husband of my least favorite person on the planet?
Yes, we don't speak her name.
No, and we do not steam our vaginas. I just don't. And
Well,
I do
I
not wear a
certainly
jade
don't do
egg in
that, Laura.
mine, and I do not have candles that smell like my vagina and explode in people's homes. Nope, nope. She is my least favorite person. So bless him.
Good
Yeah, her
people
name
make
rhymes with
mistakes
Gwyneth
sometimes.
Paltrow, but we
Everyone
don't.
makes mistakes, Chris. It's
Yeah,
okay.
everyone. Okay. Wait, so we really digress, but we talked about stuff important. Donny Osmond and Coldplay. I mean, like, how
We're
does that
done.
come in here?
See ya. It was a great episode, everyone. Thanks for coming.
So
Successful
thanks, bye,
conversation already.
unstable. So yeah, I mean that's why we call this like unstable vitals because healthcare is unstable and so are we, and you just got a window into that.
Yep.
So Wace, tell us about yourself. I mean, I know you, Laura knows you, but tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I think if you ask both of you tell me about Owais, you say he does a bunch of random things. But I guess my day job is I'm an ER doctor here in Houston, Texas. Grew up in Houston, went to college at UT Austin, Hookham, and then went to med school at Oklahoma State. Went to San Antonio for my emergency medicine residency, which I finished about 3.5 years ago, which is crazy to think about because now I'm like, oh, I've officially been out of residency longer than I was in residency, which I think is like the official you're not a new doc anymore kind of
Yeah,
point, which is
but to us,
You're
that makes you
still
just a sweet little baby doctor.
yeah. I mean, I knew you when you were a resident, not
yeah.
I was not your attending, but like that's when I met you back in the residency days during COVID. So
Yeah, that's wild. That seems like it was only 3 years ago, but it seems like it was like 10 years ago.
I
Um,
know.
but yeah, so I obviously still practice here, and then the other big bucket of my life is something called Texas Tasty. So it's kind of this food social media page I created that turned into like a mini company essentially. And so it's like food, pop culture, sports, and travel, and it's mostly Texas stuff, so all across Texas. And I have a few people that help me with that. And so the cool thing is I could go to like any restaurant in Houston or Texas probably for free and get like the VIP treatment, which is always nice. And then the third bucket of my life is, I would say, STEM. And so I'm science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm a huge advocate for that. It's something that, for me personally, gave me all these opportunities, first in my family to go to college, med school, that kind of thing. And it's allowed me to, live a very fulfilling life. And so I've done that through finding ways to create those opportunities for others, creating media content, whether it's social media or on local television here in Houston around STEM and highlighting STEM careers. 'Cause a lot of times, you don't see a career, you don't know about it until you're in college or out of college. You're like, man, if I knew about that, maybe I would have pursued that. And so that's kind of a third big bucket in my life. And then I'm a golf addict. I play golf probably 2 or 3 times a week, and I find any excuse to get on the golf course, turn my phone off, and just kind of, be in nature.
You and
Always,
I
do you
have had. Oh,
know?
go ahead, Laura. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
Adam, I have to tell Owais, do you know I just started golfing last year, and do you know what my shit golfer name is? You know everyone's
No.
shit golfer name. Here's your shit golfer name. It's the first name given to you by your parents, followed by your legal last name.
So everyone.
So it's your name.
So
It's
my
Lara
name, Lara
Zibners.
Zibners, is my shit golfer name.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
Speaking
that
of
doesn't apply
that,
to you. Your shit golfer name could also be Lara Zibners because you're not a shit golfer.
Always, you would like this. I went home to North Carolina last week, and my granddad, who is 91 years old, he is like all of 5'3" or 4" with probably like a couple of inches in his heel of his shoe. Like he's a little guy, but weighs maybe 95 pounds. But I walked in. He was in his restaurant. He still has a restaurant. I think I've mentioned this to you before about him. But what was really funny is like, how you doing today, Granddad? I mean, he's a Southern guy. You almost need like closed caption to understand what my granddad is saying. He's like, well, I'm gonna tell you, it's not a good day. It's just a real bad golfing day. And I was like, well, tell me, you went golfing? Yeah, 18 holes. It's not like used to. I get to like 15, 16. Oh, I'm tired. But, I still keep going, walking, of course, and stuff. And I'm like, well, what'd you shoot today? He goes, 87. And he goes, it's less than my age, but I usually shoot around 78, 81. He's like, but
Wow.
87. And I was like, to be 91 years old, he was frying chicken. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He had just golfed 18 holes, walking all around, doing all kind of stuff, and is complaining that he shot at 87, and the guy that was 72 playing with him did better than him. He was pissed off.
That's crazy. That's my dream. This kind of may be dark, but I don't want to live if I can't play golf, right? So if I'm like ever wheelchair bound or anything, I don't know what the point of life is at that point. And so I want to be your grandfather. I want to be that 90 something year old that's still playing 18 holes. And yeah, that's the dream.
I now am going to push back at that and say the world needs you. So if that were to happen, we're going to get one of these kids you're exciting about STEM to invent an adaptable golf something that you can control with your eyeballs.
I like it.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. I think it's a great idea, Laura. New company. Let's market and do that one. That's a lot of fun. Well, Owais, the title of the podcast and the reason why Laura and I are doing this is because we believe that healthcare is unstable, and we believe that there's one of the things that we wanted to do was bring in very smart, brilliant people who are recognizing some of the problems in the healthcare space and who are actively trying to solve it. The golf course may not be one of those spaces, but you mentioned a couple of other places that are. But I just want to first ask you, like, what do you see as some of the major issues currently within healthcare in the United States that make it unstable? And maybe I shouldn't assume, do you think that healthcare in the United States is unstable? And if so, why and where?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't know a single doctor that would say it's amazing and this is the perfect system. Every single one of my colleagues at Shift Change is just complaining of like the various structural issues or things that exist. So 100% unstable. I mean, as ER docs, we're at the front door of the healthcare system, and so we see all the problems. And so sometimes maybe if you're, a specialist, all the patients that come to you, they have insurance, they have some level of, security and access, and so you get a very selective view of the healthcare system. We see everyone, and so in my job, in our jobs, I get to see the patients that I prescribed antibiotics to 3 weeks ago that couldn't afford them and now are back with sepsis. I get to see, the mom who never got any type of childcare who has to have me as her OB, which is not a good option in an emergent situation. And so you see all of those small issues, even something as simple as like, hey, this patient should probably get some type of physical rehab, or maybe they need short-term nursing care, and that just being impossible to set from the emergency department, or even walking into a room and a patient being like me being like, hey, we're going to order these tests, and being like, how much is that going to cost? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to afford it. Me not having a good answer to that in any way. And so seeing all of that, it's just hard. And then even kind of zooming out and seeing what's happening on a national level, where you have cuts to certain programs or things that are eventually going to trickle down into our hospital systems and affect the population. And so there is no shortage of bad and unstable things happening to the system, in the system. And then a lot of it impacts us, physician burnout, nursing burnout, all of that. And so it's not a fun place to be, but I think for me, I think of it, I double majored in bio and poli-sci. And so I prevent that kind of doom and gloom going down a misery hole path by saying like, okay, what are the solutions? What's another country's done or something that we've done in the past that worked, and how can we potentially do that again to not die essentially.
Right.
That's as you're talking, I'm really impressed with your awareness of and your empathy about these social determinants of health. When I was a little doctor, I wasn't as empathetic, and it took me a lot longer to really start to look at the reasons why, it's not just a lack of personal responsibility or an unwillingness to follow medical advice. It is because you structurally have obstacles that we don't know about, we don't ask about, we don't have resources for. Do you think you're just a more evolved human being than I was, or do you think that there's just more awareness of the complexities out there these days?
I think there is more awareness. I think so. I think for me, it's a two-part. I had no health insurance growing up, so was in a very modest household. Going to the doctor was like a huge thing. Like you really, really had to be sick to go to the pediatrician or something like that. And then getting like those meds filled, it wasn't the easiest thing. We got the meds and everything, but it was always like, oh, it's going to cost this much and whatnot. So it was always in the back of my mind. My second year of med school, my dad had a STEMI, a massive heart attack. He needed a cabbage, and thankfully got it. He's healthy. He's with us and everything. But that was, like 2 or 3 years into us having health insurance as a family because of the Affordable Care Act. And so I was like almost paralyzed. I was like, what if this had happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago? What would he have gotten the care? Would he have gotten any type of care? I mean, obviously they would have stabilized him in the ER and then said, hey, you need a cabbage follow up when you have, the money for it or access and whatnot. And so that really kind of stuck with me and kind of almost scared me in a way, and I still think about it quite frequently. And so I think those experiences as a kid, then seeing what the Affordable Care Act did, which was not perfect by any means, but a huge policy decision that moved us forward and gave families like mine access. And so that I think made me more thoughtful and cognizant of those issues in the system. And then I think having that poli-sci background, and I interned in DC for a year and tried to use some of that. And so understanding that, policies can make lives better. And so I think a combination of those things allows me and kind of almost forces me to think about those things when I go into a patient room.
It's this last part you just talked about. One of the things I really am drawn to you and love hanging out and chatting with you, et cetera, is this kind of hopefulness about the future state of healthcare, and leaning into your experience in politics and working with the White House and working here in Washington, D.C., et cetera, and seeing how a policy like the Affordable Care Act, a law that was passed, really had direct implications on your own life and your own family's life, but also our lives, and also, then the nation broadly. What I wanted to ask you is, what was the timeline of that empathic kind of view? Was it, and when your dad had his illness and when his heart attack, and what was the point in time where you said to yourself, okay, I want to go to college, to university, to do X because of Y, and then I want to go into medical school and be an emergency physician? What was that arc? Because this is a very formed kind of empathic and yet but also hopeful kind of worldview in healthcare. How did that develop? You told about your dad in DC, but like when and how?
Yeah, so I'll take it part by part, right? So I think the idea of policy and like why I even double majored in poli-sci to begin with came from watching the evening news at 5:30 every single day when I was a kid. So like even as a 5 or 6 year old, we used to always watch ABC. Peter Jennings was like my hero. This amazing kind of macho guy who like gave you the news in the perfect voice. And I just had this view of like, oh wow, things that happen in this place called DC, this magical, mythical place, impact all of us because that's usually what news is focused on. And so I wanted to kind of know more about that. And so that was probably why I studied poli sci. The medicine part of thing, I'll be quite honest, as someone who has a Pakistani background in that culture, it's like you either become a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. My parents like strongly encouraged I become a doctor, but they actually surprisingly like after like 10th or 11th grade kind of took the pressure off. But I think obviously when you've had your whole childhood of like, hey, you should be this thing, it's kind of ingrained in you. But I went to college and I was like, okay, let me give this biology thing a shot. I remember they had like the shadowing program, and I shadowed an ER doc of all people, like first year of college, where you have no idea what specialties are or anything like that. And I obviously was majoring in poli sci, but I saw the potential of even when I shadowed him that few times, the fact that someone came in and they were like desperate or in a lot of pain or tearful, and he was able to do something about them. And then had some internships like at the Texas State Capitol and whatnot. And they were very enjoyable and whatnot. But I saw that a lot of it was politics because it is politics, right? Where it's a lot of like kissing up to someone or being strategizing. It wasn't like do A and you get B. Whereas in medicine, I saw you do this thing and you get that result. And that's why I love emergency medicine, right? We am tall and everything. You order whatever test you need to, you do what is right for the patient. And so that's what really drew me to medicine. I shadowed some other folks as well through those years. And I was like, okay, no, this definitely is the thing that calls to me. Now, when I was in that internship in DC, I actually got a job offered at the White House, right? So I was accepted at the med school. I had this job offer. It was like a 49-51 decisions. Like, I really love this thing and I really love this thing. What do I do? Obviously went down the medicine path, and I'm so glad I did, especially with how crazy our politics are now, because I couldn't imagine this being my job or like me not being able to unplug from it because if in that case it would be my job. And so I think those kind of combination of things led me down this path, and then the emergency medicine path was just what I alluded to, the fact that for that brief moment, obviously insurance and all those things they matter, but in that room I can do the thing that's going to stabilize and what this podcast is called, turn an unstable patient into a stable patient, and me being able to do that is obviously fulfilling for myself, but then I'm helping someone as well.
Well, just really quickly, I mean, and Laura's taken my class at UNC before. One of the things I think I have some students that come in, they're like, well, let's get politics out of medicine. Let's not talk about politics in medicine. And what I try to demonstrate is how much of our financing of healthcare, the incentives that are in healthcare, the financial incentives, they all are derived from policy and policymaking, and that they're inextricably linked between the societal public health type of outcomes that we have and the policies that are made, whether they are social determinants of health type of policies around investments, educational, transportation, et cetera, even carrying it forward like the Affordable Care Act in your specific situation. And then something I want to move into is funding around science and technology and engineering and mathematics, and how you have taken this on as I don't even want to make it de minimis by calling it a passion project. Like you have a television show you're on in Houston, you are interviewing people from all over. I mean, do you see a threat and an instability in those spaces here in the United States, and that can create problems for us in the future? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I'm involved with, various STEM organizations, and there was actually a STEM organization I was involved with that had an event this last March. And so this event, because of the funding cuts and DOGE and all of those things, had a lot of funding pulled out at the last minute, and it was almost, in jeopardy. And they had great leadership and they were able to scramble together funding. But I firsthand saw how this organization that was going to have a bunch of kids there and was going to bring folks together from the STEM community was impacted. And you see all these funding cuts where like, hey, 30 million grant for this has been cut, or X and X has been cut for this. And they seem all vague and kind of out there, but those are like programs that all of these youth groups and STEM outreach groups and making teachers better and giving teachers additional training and all these things depend on. And so many other, I follow a whole bunch of STEM organizations, and a lot of their social media pages will post like, hey, we're not going to be posting as frequent updates as we used to because we have to let go of our social media manager because of funding cuts and things like that. And you see already the implications of that, and these are just the initial kind of impacts of those cuts. Those are going to reverberate through the system for years and decades. And it's unfortunate because I feel like, we've been talking about STEM if you've been in the education world for, a long, long time, right? Decades. But I feel over the last 5 years, like the mainstream finally understood what STEM was. And you had like large technology companies putting money into STEM and commercials for like Dell and things like that, highlighting STEM programs and whatnot. And we were finally making that progress, and it's been cut. And I've also seen personally where for some reason, obviously DEI is like the boogeyman, right? Somehow STEM is sometimes even put into the umbrella of DEI, and because, hey, you were trying to get Black girls into coding, somehow that's DEI. No, that's STEM. But even lumping in STEM with that category, I've seen that, and so yeah, it's unfortunately not great times in that community. I feel like a lot of that progress we made over the last 5 or 8 years is unfortunately going to be lost.
I want to pick up on something you just said, which is I think people really don't understand that these cuts that are happening at the government level, they won't just be undone by the next administration. Like the damage, you can't just like tell someone you hate them and then say I love you and it's all better, right?
Yeah.
So I had an NIH grant funding meeting that was canceled 4 hours before the meeting. And I've got friends who, I'm kind of glad I'm in the UK and we got NIHR funding, which is the UK government system. And I'm like, yay, I know what my money's coming, right? Whereas all my friends who have NIH funding, they don't know. And that uncertainty then also has a ripple on effect because you just don't undo it, right? When programs break and people are fired, you have to recreate those programs and rehire those people. To your point about, Black girls in STEM being, it's so obviously not what it is. But going back to your television show, what I love so much is you have such a great online presence. You're good in front of a camera, but you are doing such cool stuff to get kids excited about it. That's what it is. It's not about bringing people in who don't want to do STEM. It's about showing them all these opportunities. Like you're with the Blue Angels, which that almost made me sick when I saw that because I would not be doing that.
Yes, I'm like, no.
No. Lara's not getting in the back of that airplane. But when I watched it, it made me think of like when my kids would say something like, I don't need math. Math is stupid. I don't need math. And I'd be like, do you want that shirt? Here's $20. Tell me how much change I'm getting back and you can have it, right? Like you do need math. Yeah. So I just, can you speak to how you pick these ideas? Because they're so cool and they really allow kids to see what they could be. And that's, I think, what we have to overcome.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of, I would in a heartbeat get in a fighter jet again. It was like the coolest thing I've ever done. But the funny thing is, last month's episode was about, there's a city called Galveston. We haven't released it yet, but it's near Houston. And they have like we were doing the STEM in Galveston. They actually have their own STEM curriculum for the summer. And one of the things was like a roller coaster and physics of roller coasters. I literally did not get on a roller coaster. I'm more afraid of roller coasters than I am of a fighter jet.
Are you kidding me?
Really?
Yeah.
That is like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
That's like the most fun.
I'm afraid of everything because I'm a middle-aged woman who's menopausal and therefore severely anxious. So if I'm on a roller coaster, I have my head down because I'm pretty sure some pipe's just going to rip my head off. I'm more afraid of Galveston. I actually lived there for 6 months when I was an infant. Yeah, my dad was a neurosurgery resident he was a neurosurgery resident for a very short period of time until the day he left the house with no pants on. And my mom was like, I'm not sure this career's for you.
That's a story for another time.
Instability runs in the family. Is this what you're trying to say? I'm just sorry.
Well, no, what I was trying to say was he was on call every single day and being called to the hospital. One day he just got up and walked out the front door without clothes on. But yes, I guess you could also link familial instability as a diagnosis.
Hey,
sorry to get us off track.
Go ahead, Owais.
No, I was just gonna say, kind of you asked how I came up with these topics and everything. So I'll kind of rewind a bit, right? And as Adam alluded to, we were both probably on TV a whole bunch, probably more than we should have, or at least for me, I was like, well, I'm on
Right.
TV 3 times a week.
It takes a
And
lot
during
of
that
time.
time, yeah, it does. I'm not sure about you, but I legit got hate mail during that time, right? Like DMs or like I literally had like a letter that was sent to my residency program, like trying to like trash me about like, hey, this person went on TV and said all this stuff. And of course, they didn't have a problem with it because they're like, oh, you actually said everything right. But at that time, I was like, where have we gone to in society where, like, me, just like a resident who's not getting paid for this, using my own time, researching these things, really trying to stay up to date on guidelines, going on TV, talking about this stuff, has turned me into an enemy, and so many other folks, and Dr. Fauci and all these other folks into an enemy. And I, looked at research and misinformation and looked at studies people had done and whatnot. And kind of my concentration of what the reasons for it were a few things, right? One is social media, online stuff, misinformation spreads at 6-10 times faster rate than factual information. But the other thing was we have become disconnected from each other, and everything we think about is like an entity, right? You work for Facebook, you work for the CDC, you're a pharmacist, you are all these labels, but we don't know our neighbors, we don't know these people that are all around us. And like my best friend, my college roommate, works for Facebook and Meta. Is he out to get me and trying to like steal all my information? No. Now, does the large institution maybe have some not so great initiatives? Sure, but these are the individuals that work there, and they can potentially create change and impact change. And so the whole idea was, if we get back to talking about people and highlighting them, we can maybe take a step back from this vilifying of every single thing red and blue and this versus that. And so the idea came from, let's tell the human stories that exist in STEM. STEM is obviously something I'm passionate about, and I gave a few reasons for that. And then let's tell them through a way that young kids would be excited about, right? So let's give them their veggies, but in secret. And so that's how the topics come about. And
There's an
and
avocado
so,
in your brownie.
exactly. And selfishly, I picked the topics that are interesting to me. So thankfully, KPRC, the channel that I host this show through, they give me a ton of flexibility. And so I'm a young-ish guy, and so a lot of the episodes are sports related. They're kind of more related to NASA. Obviously, growing up in Houston, I'm a huge space nerd, and so we've done stuff like that. We of course did a golf episode in the science and STEM around golf, and then we highlight the people that are in those careers. And so you could go get a degree that's based in plant sciences and plant biology and ergonomy, and work on a golf course and actually work with chemicals and how to prevent pesticides. And that's very scientific, right? You're talking about things that are very based in science, and you can be on the golf course, and that's STEM. You could be super technical and use radars and LiDAR and things like that to measure where a golf ball is going to land or fit someone for a golf club. And how do you come up with those things? And so finding things that selfishly I'm interested in, connecting them to a human story, and then connecting them to tangible career paths that a 10-year-old may be saying, like, hey, what would I do to get there? Oh, you go to Texas A&M to get this degree, and that's what this person did, and now they're working at this job. And so it's a combination of a few different things.
Well, there's this really interesting linkage between your focus on the human side of the story and where I believe there's a problem with us in medicine, is that we so are aligned with, I'm a doctor, I'm an emergency physician, I'm a pediatrician, I'm this, I'm that we forget all of the really cool things that we had to do, or kind of nerdy things or whatever, things that we had to do to get into medical school. And then we wind those pieces of who we are down, kind of becoming completely enmeshed with the profession or with the job. And that happens not just in medicine, right? I mean, you were talking about it. Like, we work for Facebook, therefore we say we work for Facebook, and that's the first thing that comes out of our mouth, forgetting that we liked to cook, we like to be a marathon runner, we like to do all these different types of things. So the question I had for you is, you've kind of created this portfolio, this life portfolio of activity of, okay, yes, ER doctors, we like lots of plate spinning, but it's still within medicine, when you're in the ER. But outside of the ER, you have like the interest in media, the interest in social media, the interest in production for a media, for a show, the interest in golfing, the political advocacy and public health advocacy. You have all of these interests. Why do you think that's the case, number one? And is that protective for you as a doctor that is in a field that has one of the highest levels of burnout?
Yeah, I think I'm just wired to be a curious person. I'm very curious, and when I want to know about something or I'm curious about something, I pursue it a bit, and then if it interests me, I continue to pursue it. So that's probably a reason for it. I think I was exposed to some of these things early on, and I was like, well, I want to pursue this, and then obviously we put all of that on hold. I mean, I won't lie. Like obviously in med school and residency, it's hard to do all those things, and I wasn't doing as many. But the last 3.5 years, I've gone kind of full steam into, what's this thing like or that thing like, and really investing some time in it. It's been joyful, and yes, 100% protective. Obviously, no matter, I think, what you do, whatever your job is, if you're doing it 24/7, you're going to get tired of it, you're going to get burnt out of it, it's going to become mundane. And that's obviously very true for emergency medicine. And then we see a lot of, tough things, and that's why our burnout rate's probably so high with very limited resources. And so for me, when I'm not at work, it's not like I'm dreading, hey, I have to work again next week or anything like that. I'm busy with, food stuff, or there's the World Cup coming to Houston. How do we create content around that and creating a content calendar a year in advance, or figuring out what the next STEM City episode is going to be, or even a day before yesterday, my first grade teacher had me speak to some of her class. So she is the head of like this charter school. She leads a STEM program there, and so talked to a few hundred kids about just what I do and whatnot. And that was so fun and fulfilling, and I feel like those types of opportunities only present themselves if you are, willing to talk about what you do in your day job, but then also do these other things. And people are like, oh, how does he do this? Why does he do that? And then they ask you to talk about it. And it's just fulfilling to see these kids smiling. And you're like, oh, wow, what I do both in the ER and outside the ER is kind of cool. And that helps prevent burnout for me. And so I think it's just getting a perspective on things. And I'll be honest, so I actually work about 9 shifts a month now, so not a little less than full time. But like those 9 shifts I'm there, I'm much more energized and fulfilled, and like I appreciate being there. And for me, it's not about how do I maximize RVUs this shift and anything like that. It's like, hey, this is my first time here in like 5 days, and everyone's excited to see you when you're not there every day as well. Like everyone's like, hey, Dr. D, it's been a while, that kind of thing. And so they're excited to see you. You're excited to be there. And then when you've been away from it for a while, we're all doctors, right? You do feel good when you're able to help someone. I show up and I'm able to, pat some things together, get people some help, get them some resources. And it's like, oh, that felt good. But then you do it 3 days and you're like, okay, now I'm a little tired and let me try this other thing. And so it's just kind of, like you said, getting these plates up in there, balancing them, and doing what makes you happy. But I'm a curious person. I follow that curiosity.
That's cool. You're reminding me, like you, I like to, excite kids, and I'm now famous at our school for being Dr. Poop. So 4 years running now, I'm invited into the 3rd grade to explain and answer all questions that they have about their bowel habits.
It's a shitty class, right, Laura?
It's a shitty class. It is a shitty class. But
there's probably a Code Brown joke in there somewhere.
There's a Code Brown. I think it's
we have to start and end every episode with some kind of Code Brown.
Yeah. We've got a T-shirt coming your way, Owais. Just tell me, medium, large, extra large. You let me know, and we'll have one coming. So. But Laura, I mean, your point's a good one. Like, I mean, you're taking both of you, I mean, or all of us, we're taking these interesting passions that we have, and there's this connection with giving back and trying to set the future right with either, the activities around STEM and the education and making science cool, and Laura making poop cool, and I mean, you're doing all kinds of things that are really. So it's important. Okay, so I've got lightning round because we've got a few minutes left. Okay, so number one, what was your most favorite STEM TV interview that you've had in the past year?
I would say it was with the four NASA Artemis astronauts. So we're going back to the moon. So there's an Artemis mission, and next year at some point, those four are going to go to the moon, not land, but kind of orbit, come back, and then another four are actually going to land. So, but these are the four that are going to go next year. And so, like, I reached out to NASA. I was like, "Hey, can we create an episode?" They're like, "Yeah, we'll arrange for a few of the astronauts." And all four of them said, like, we're available that day. And like the PR person right before I talked to him was like, "Oh yeah, the last time all four were together for an interview was for Colbert." And I was like, "Oh God, that's no pressure at all."
Pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, it was I was literally sitting all four of them in front of me, and obviously they're like the most accomplished A-lister people in the STEM world, and they're like fighter pilots and PhDs who did research into Antarctica and whatnot. And my favorite part of that episode was their mock-up where they're doing all the training of the aircraft or spacecraft. We all went in there and we're all on our knees, and they're showing me around. I was like, "What is my life?" But yeah, that was definitely the highlight of last year.
That's
Whoa, very
cool.
cool. Okay, second one. Wildest moment in the ER, but only summed up in 3 words.
Oh man.
It's a challenge.
I
See,
would
this
say,
is the challenge with an ER doc. Asking them the craziest moment. It doesn't have to be like the worst patient scenario. It's craziest moment.
yeah. I mean, I would brain matter out. I'll just say that.
Oh God.
Oh
I
no,
was gonna
that's
say
horrible.
crack and chew, but it took me a minute. Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Those
going to
are
say
nice.
Code Brown Room D. You know, that was going to be mine. Code Brown Room D. Okay, what is your dream guest for your TV show? What
Besides me.
who other
Besides
than
me.
Laura and yeah,
Besides
Of
besides
us.
us.
course. Yeah, of course you all. Um, let's see. Man, how could I not say Bill Nye, right? Like he's the reason that most of my generation, probably your generation, had inspiration in STEM, and he set this kind of path to STEM media and STEM content and whatnot. So that would be pretty cool. But also a close second, Elmo.
I
Oh,
I'm with you on Elmo. I was really worried you were gonna say Teletubbies because that we'd have a problem. But Elmo, I can back 100%.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
One more question and then some closing comments. So, if you weren't in medicine, what would you be doing?
In this scenario, do I have the ability to? I'm going to say professional golf. I'm not good enough at all to be a professional golfer, but that would be my dream, basically.
Amazing.
That's so fun. Well, I mean, I one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on was because you just bring so much energy and highlight the importance of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and to STEM, and why that is so critical that our kids and adults embrace science and technology because that is the thing that provides us medicine, that's the things that makes us safe, that's the things that moves us forward in innovation, and it tends to be this kind of friction between what's happening with the government right now, and as you mentioned before, STEM is becoming a boogeyman in some ways, funding is being pulled back, and the concerns that that can have for even making us as a country even more stable. So not to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming you would say focus on STEM, invest in our kids in this space, and that's a way to shift the instability to making healthcare more stable. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 100%. No matter what problem it is, whether it's the climate or healthcare or the cars we drive or how we power our homes, the solutions are literally all in STEM. The clothes we wear, and we need a lot of smart people to create those solutions and have those conversations, and we need to inspire those young people to go into those fields.
Yeah, and then the other kind of take home I'm taking from this is that one of the ways to keep us as doctors stable is to have this portfolio of life where we are continuously being curious, following that curiosity, tapping into those interests and those passions, whether it be golf or giving back to younger populations in politics or STEM or something like that. I mean, that's what I'm taking away from this conversation. Other than you're just a really cool guy, and I can't wait to hang out again with you in a couple of days.
But
But like, like
that's
that to me is a big
what
take home.
well spoken because my big take home was that if I'm ever going to go out to dinner in Houston, Texas, I'm going with Owais.
Yes, I
True.
got you. I got you. We'll go to the best spot with we'll have the chef come out and everything.
Perfect.
Okay, and always, I'm going to give you like, what's your take home? What do you want to leave folks with?
I mean, we kind of summed it up, I think, pretty well. But I would say I love that what you guys are doing. I love that there's more, ER docs and docs out there. Lara with your company and Adam obviously with your company and all the interesting things you're doing, and that you all are showcasing it through this podcast and other things that you all are doing online. And I think other doctors and other folks in STEM need to see that what you're doing, what I'm doing, that hey, it's okay to not fit in this like perfect little box that we think everyone
Right.
needs to fit in. And so for me, it's exciting for you all to showcase myself, others who are doing similar things, and then you guys being the role models as well. And yeah, that's exciting to see that we're in an era where that's not, I'm not going to say acceptable because we don't need anyone's permission, but that it's more normalized and it's fun to do this, and that we can spend an hour together and chat, and I'll be excited about the things that we're doing.
Yeah. Hey, well, I just really appreciate the time. I mean, I always learn so much from you and get so much energy from you when we're together, and I can't wait to see where you go. I feel like we're kind of on at this space where it's like, well, I ask you, what is your dream guest for your show? And like, you
It's
are
a
one of
win.
those for us. And so I know it's like you really are one of those. So I appreciate it. I thank you. Thank you for trying to make the world of health and the world a more stable place, and to fix those vital signs. Laura, last thoughts?
I don't have any last thoughts. You once again made me speechless. I thought I had like said everything I wanted to say, but I'll reiterate. I was so excited for today because you're out there everywhere. You're still, I'm a washed up old lady. You're still young enough that you're close enough to the next generation that you can excite them in a way that only someone like you can. And so thank you for what you're doing, because kids need role models. They need to be able to see someone who looks like them, or they need to be able to see what they could be. And you're providing that for them.
Well, it was an honor being a
thanks.
guest. Thanks so much.
Yeah, well, thanks to you both. And you can always check us out on Tuesdays for the next download, every other week for the summer series. And then you can also check us out online at www.unstablevitals.com. And we also have a YouTube channel, and you can find us on wherever you get your podcast. We are on 15 different platforms. And so we are very grateful for the opportunity to share our thoughts and to you share your thoughts with us. So with that, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, Owais.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Unstable Vitals. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us for more unfiltered conversations on the pulse of healthcare. Connect with us on LinkedIn or visit unstablevitals.com to stay in the loop. And don't forget, real change starts with real talk. See you next time.